Hello, fifth graders. Today, we are going to be talking about elaborating on important parts. And now, so far in our revision work, we have focused on two very important pieces. We have focused on the meaning. Meaning is so important to narrative stories. You know this as a reader. As a reader, we're always looking for what is really the message of this story. And we worked on revising our stories to also show a message in our writing. We also spent time working on structure. We also do this in reading, right? We talk about the characters, the setting, the problem, the solution, all of those important structures of a story arc that most narratives typically follow. We did the same thing with our writing, where we made sure our stories follow that proper structure of a narrative. Now, today, we're going to get a little bit more sophisticated. You're ready for being a little bit more sophisticated today. And we're going to work on meaning and structure at the same time. We're going to put those pieces together. Now, we're going to use the structure of our stories to actually bring out the meaning of them. And what I mean by this is if you were in a new city, right? Imagine you're in the back of a car and you're going through some neighborhoods, and your Uber driver starts slowing down and starts showing you some things that are really cool that only someone who's lived there a while would know, and they're pointing these out. You can do this to people in your stories, your readers, by slowing down on a part that you want them to focus in on. You want them to zoom into that world of your story and focus in on the parts that matter. And that's what we're going to work at today. Now, today, your objective is to revise your draft to show meaning and then be able to elaborate on the heart of the story by paying attention to those specific scenes. Pause the video here, reread that objective to yourself, and use one of those sentence frames to put that in your own words. What is your goal for today? All right, now, the hardest part of this work is deciding which part of your story really is the most important, which part you want readers really to pay attention to. But the answer to this is simple, yet super important. Only the writer, only you yourself can decide what's the most important part of the story. You are going to decide this, all right? Now, if my story is about being really hurt and offended, then I'm going to zoom in on the parts that are about that. If the heart of my story is having great moments in your life or overcoming a great loss, then I'm going to zoom in on the parts that really show that. So today, you're going to be learning that writers use pace, the same way runners do sometimes, to meet a very specific reason, usually. They're usually elaborating, they're slowing down and giving a lot of detail on these parts that they want readers to really pay attention to. Now, when we're talking about the message you want people to take away from your story, when I think about my dad's story, I want people to take away that idea of disappointment, right? Of being super excited for something only for it not to work out the way that you planned and how to deal with that. So when I'm looking for the pieces of my story that I want to elaborate on, I was thinking about places that really showed this. It really showed my dad's hopefulness to be a part of this and disappointment that he wasn't. So I went ahead in my story already and I highlighted a couple of places that are super important to this message. So I highlighted this section where he's first starting to get so excited about being a part of the football team. That's an important piece of this message. I also highlighted this section where he gets that courage to ask and his parents respond, no. That's important to my message. So I have a couple of sections here that I've gone through and highlighted in my story. I want you to pause the video right here, right now, and I want you to do this part. Go into your story and think, what is the most important piece that my readers take away? And highlight. You should have at least 2 sections you can highlight that really show that part. Pause here and go do that work. All right, so you should now have your story highlighted with a couple of important scenes that really are going to matter, that you want to slow down, like the taxi driver in a city, the Uber driver. Slow down and make sure readers are noticing. For me, it's those two pieces I showed you, where the teacher passes out the flyer, my dad's getting really excited, and then the moment that he asks and his parents say no. Now, there are a few ways to do this work of elaborating, to make these scenes stretch out and have more detail so that readers have to slow down and really think about those moments. One thing that you can do is show small actions characters are doing. You can also add in some dialogue, have characters talk a little more about things, or have your characters thinking to themselves, right? Their personal dialogue. You can also give visual details, what's going on around them. I'm going to practice this with one section in my writing to show you what I mean. So if I go up to this first scene where his mind starts racing, I'm going to start by adding in some visual details. I've always wanted to be a part of the football team. What might a kid in middle school start picturing when they're thinking about that? I can almost feel the grass of the field under my feet and the leathery smack of a football as I catch it. I can hear my friends cheering me on as I make a winning touchdown. And then I'm going to do that adding a little detail. I suddenly snap out of my daydream as I hear Todd? Birth to Todd? My face turns red as I realize my teacher and entire class are looking at me. Oops. So see how I can add in details to stretch this part out. I can add in some dialogue to stretch this out. I'm adding a little bit of my dad's personal thinking to stretch this part of this story out. That way, my readers read this part and know to zoom in. This is important. The fact that he wants to play football is important to this story, which is going to lead to that disappointment that I really want my readers to feel when I then go revise this next section. All right, you are ready to get to work. The first thing is making sure that you are really going section by section, bit by bit, and thinking about, is this the part of my story that really needs to be elaborated on? Is this really, really what my story is about? Then go through the process. Use dialogue, slow down, give details, show the small action, add internal thinking to really show that message of your story. You now have your time. Go into those drafts, find your highlighted pieces, and elaborate on those parts. Make your readers slow down and pay attention to them.